Hello and welcome to Flooring Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Italerie's brand new 100% new tooling 1/72 F-35B Lightning II. So you might remember a few months ago we actually reviewed and then built the Hasegawa 1/72 F-35B Lightning. So it will be interesting to see how this one stacks up against that kit, because to be honest with you, I really like that other kit. To say it was like Bandai is an understatement. Anyway, as you can see, lovely little bit of box art. The nice thing about this one, obviously being British, we've actually got it in Royal Navy or an RAF markings here for the Queen Elizabeth carrier, which is a very nice touch with it. But I do think we get other ones in the box as well. Quick whip round, you can see we've got the decals down in here and a quick look at what we're going to be looking at. Kit number for this one is 1425, okay. And as you can see down on here, we have got other ones as well. So we have got the actual Royal Naval Lightning Force HMS Queen Elizabeth in October 2019, obviously for operational deployments. And then we've got obviously a couple of the more old school ones as well that we're familiar with, which is the US Marine Corps one, VMFA 121, okay, in May 2018. And we've got one from the Pantex River for 2018 as well for the test evaluation squadrons down in there. So very nice job indeed. So if we just open up the box, we've got the usual Italeri stickers on here. Let's get this out of the box. To be honest, it's been a while since I've actually reviewed anything Italeri, so a little bit old school. Usual thing, we've got the decals just down in here. We have our standard Italeri instructions, which we'll look at in a moment. And then in the box, as you can see, we've got the parts, which looks like we've got very much raised details for the actual ram tape. And then we've got down in here, you can see the coloured glass in one jumbo bag, just like that as well. So we just pop those out of the way. For the moment, we'll have a look at the instructions down in here. Italeri's usual type way of doing this one. We'll just pull the camera out a bit because they are very large instructions. Okay, so as we can see, usual thing with this one, parts call out, various things down in here. Italeri standard colour call outs, which actually aren't too bad. Although they've got the Italeri colours down in here for their paint range, it's also got the federal standard codes for everything, which again is a really nice touch. So as you might imagine, usual thing with these, we're starting with the ejector seat and in with the cockpit. Okay, that usual single screen at the front, obviously being used as a decal on that one. And then the standard way tub fittings in with that one, all right. Then we're flipping it over and putting it into the underside, opening up a few holes, pretty much standard as we've seen all the F-35s. Making the decision if you want to have the weapons pylons installed, if you are obviously opening up the holes, as you might imagine, right the way through. Wheel wells, as I say, single piece with the actual gear going in those ones. And then we've got the actual, look like louver doors as I call them, for the underside of the actual intake exhaust system for the fan, direction fan or ducted fan in from the top, okay. Then we've actually got the engine going together, which very reminiscent to sort of how the the Hasegawa kit was with that one in there, but it doesn't look like this one is sort of movable, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. We've got the lift engine is right the way through, as you can see, fully detailed all the way in that one, and then plumbing in the intakes and obviously the lift engine into the front end just like that. Next up, we've got some various strafes on the side, exactly the same, and then we've actually got the exhaust. Now it looks like the exhaust, you have a choice instead of it being movable as it was in the Hasegawa kit. So the Hasegawa one, you would twist it to have it either in the down position or the aft position. This one, you've got an alternative in there to exactly how that one done. Looking at it though, you can't just perhaps have one and just plug in which one you want for each display, because the nozzle is one piece with these ones. So you've got 13A is, so it's this one here. So maybe you could do it without gluing in and just doing both the midsections to get away with that, okay? Top and halves going together, usually the best way for this one, so it's limiting all the seam lines as you might expect. And then we've got the sort of flapperons going onto this one, the tail planes, and then obviously the tails themselves being fitted onto this one right the way through, pretty standard. Then it's gear doors and sensors, obviously all being fitted down into the front end, and then details into the actual wheel wells. So we've got a couple of large 2,000 pound JDAMs, 31s in there being fitted in, and then we've actually got the AMRAMs as well on the door pylons being fitted in to go alongside those. All right, pretty standard right the way through. So it's nice to see we've got fully detailed weapon bays in this one, okay, and then obviously the outer doors being fitted onto those. All right. Afterplanes being fitted in with the actual covers and various things down in here for the sort of lift jets that go actually under the wings as well. Weight on wheels, which is quite nice right the way through, and then depending on the configuration you've got this one, depending on how you're going to be having the exhaust doors fitted either in the up or down position. Weapon pylons being fitted right the way through, all 6 stations on those, which is a nice touch, and then picking out your sort of GBU 12 500-pound paveway system onto that one, as you might imagine. Lift door for the front, that giant barn door on the front being fitted in there, and then obviously the smaller one for the rear part going down in there as well. Canopy open or close options, nice touch right the way through, and then we've got a little dolly as well, which is a nice little touch with this one, to be honest with you, as a weapons loader. So you can obviously fit those big 2,000-pound JDAMs on there, or perhaps carry 2 500-pound JDAMs on there as well. Okay, colour callouts, as you imagine, they're saying gunship grey, light ghost grey and all the rest of it. Yeah, wouldn't go with that so much. It tends to be this sort of ram colour that they actually use on this one. MRP do a very nice version of that one, to be honest. Okay, right the way through, and then depending on which one you're going to be doing is different versions. So you've got decals which are going to go inside barn doors and various things. Okay, so that's those ones on there. Okay, and then working our way around, you've got the different options in here, colour callouts for the various things, and for the weapon paint colours in there as well. One thing I think is missing, and I don't see it unless it's on here, but it looks like you don't get provision for decal for all the round tape area. As we look down on here, as you can see, we are quite correct. So as you can see down in here with these decals, we've got some of the round tape areas, but not all of them. But fear not, for the observant ones amongst you will know, actually it's not the colour it used to be. Instead of it being sort of a light ghost grey colour, very easy to see all that round tape, it's now been replaced by a darker colour, which is definitely more reminiscent of the actual aircraft colour, so you don't get it as much, alright? But again, that's our squadron markings down in there like that one, so very, very nice indeed. Okay, so usual thing, they don't look too bad. Again, sometimes they can be a little bit thick and a little bit plasticky, almost the decals, and they do look it a little bit here, but plenty of micro set and sol down in there just to weld those down. Right, the parts themselves. One single bag, as I said before. We'll just open this one up. We'll look at the canopy last and we'll have a look in. Obviously this is the all-important one in here. And again, you've got a lot of stuff going around on this sprue, as you can probably see. Lots of nice moulded in detail straight away into the actual weapons base, which is something we didn't have an option with the Hasegawa kit. Again, it's that typical Italeri way of doing it, which is quite a soft plastic in look, but actually, if you hear it, it's not. It's quite a crisp plastic, so that's not so much of a problem. We've got no real sink marks or anything else that I can see down in there. And again, I think if we move over to the closer cam and work our way around, you can see you've got great details on those engines and on the nozzle, so that's quite nice. This upper fuselage section, you can see it's got a nice level of detail to it. Again, it's very difficult because the diehards out there love this round tape effect and all the rest of it. The reality is you don't see it as much as you did on the early ones, and I don't think it's quite as pronounced and as raised as that is, but you could just knock that back a bit, I'm thinking, with a sanding sponge and have no real problem with it. The rest of it all looks pretty nice, and as you can see, we've got some nice details on this one right the way through. Moving our way over to here, we've got the actual lift jet. This is the air one on the front sides and various things, and as you can see, that's in there. And we've got one of the formers for the actual engine, and that's those intakes down in there. We'll look when we flip it over. The nozzle, as you can see, doesn't look too bad at all down in there. Okay, and then looking on here, we've got that fuselage, and starting on the wing, you can see we've got those nice sort of ram areas for the actual weapon pylons, and then looking into the body, a lovely detailed job done in there with the piping and wiring and the formers all in the weapons base, looking really nice. We move up to the front, the nose wheel well looking really nice, and you can see those ram areas on the sides looking very, very nice indeed. And then down on the back, again, looking very nice indeed. And we've got those air jet areas and various things underneath. looking very, very good all the way through. And the engine actually on the other side. The intakes unfortunately do have some very large ejector pins in there, but the chances of you ever being seeing anything in there are pretty much non-existent. The way that they bend around and conform, it's very hard to see in there at the best of times. But to be honest with you, they're not overkill, they're slightly raised, so you could just go in there and sand those out with no real problems at all with any of that. Inside, obviously, for details, there's nothing that you're going to worry about because you're not going to see any of it, but you can see the holes for opening up for pylons. They're quite big, quite chunky, but very nicely done indeed. Okay, so on to the main area again. You can see very nice, lots of stuff going down in here. We have got, unfortunately, a couple of sink marks in this and various things, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. All right, but moving around on the close-up, we'll just work our way around in sections. You can see we've got the seat. This is a little bit of a concern because this is, I assume, the sort of flapper-on type area, and it looks like you can see we've got a huge sink mark just in there, but luckily it's quite flat. That's not going to take too much. Tiny spot of filler, I think, in both, and a quick rub, and really it's not mass issues in there. Okay, we've got the doors, all the various sections down in there. Okay, this is the wheel wells, again, nice little bit of detail down in there. The weapon system itself, they are in halves, the sort of weapons, so a little bit of clean up with the seam ones. The actual AIM 120s over here, again, no problem with those at all. Okay, one piece right the way through. And then working down, we've actually got the gear. So you've got some brake lines, various things going on with that, and nice good detail on that. The weapons, doors, this area here is obviously the drive shaft for the front lift fan. Again, more actuators for the main doors. There's that louver door system for deflecting the air downwards. As you can see, we've got weight on wheels here in number 3, so very nice indeed. The top of the actual lift fan, and then the various sections down, and then we've got the compressor blades for the main engine and rear parts as well right the way on there. And then we've got a couple of angle attack sensors at 46, the instrument panel, so forth and so on. Rear parts, again with the ram areas, no problem at all. Nose wheel, weight on wheel as well, is a nice touch. Tail planes, again, this is just discoloration on here. These aren't actually anything to worry about. And again, cockpit, doesn't look too bad. As we spoke about before, there's no real detail in those, so there's not a lot to actually see. And then doors and various parts down in here, but again, you can probably see we have got a couple of sink marks just done here, and it's a bit unfortunate because it isn't the biggest bit of moulding, but this is caused by these 2 pins. But they're not worried because these are the pins that actually go in the actual lift jet area internal, so the outside ones you're going to have to sand them off to get rid of it. Okay, again, nice touch is we've actually got the weapons doors. There's no ejector pins on the inside of those. There's no ejector pins down in here either. They're all beautifully done and no problem whatsoever. And again, the main doors, there's no ejector pins in those, which is very nice. And the nose wheel doors, again, no ejector pins in those. These ones down in here we're not worried about because they are covered by these 2 boxes here as well, so that's very nice indeed. Okay, last up we've actually got the weapons pylons and the various little bits in here. So again, we've got the smaller GBUs, the 500-pound ones. Okay, and then obviously we've got 2 halves of the pylon, so actually moulded in one, so we don't worry about those. There's no sink marks or anything else we can see on those, so that's quite a nice touch. And then moving down, we've got the air-to-air weapons pylons. Looks like we've got a couple of AIM 9Xs, and then this is our cart for the actual towing vehicle. And again, more little pylons just down in here. So again, very nice indeed. Last up, we've actually got the clear part for the glass. Again, moulded in a relatively odd colour because it's more of a goldy colour than I think an actual sort of bronzy brown yellow colour. So I don't know, take your choices on that one. But again, that's in one piece. It is supposed to be like that and it's quite nice. We've just got one seam which is actually on the inside. So check that. I'm not sure if it actually has it or not because it hasn't got it on the outside. So I'm assuming it does have a seam line in the middle. Could be an aerial. Okay, and then we've got the under the nose sensor as well. That's also done in that colour glass as well. If that colour glass is right, I'm not too sure. I must admit I haven't done my homework on it too much. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that colour is correct on with that one. And there we go. It's definitely a different take on it. It's a different beast altogether to actually how we did the Hasegawa one. Now, which one's best? Yeah, I'm not too sure. The Hasegawa one went together incredibly well. Very, very straightforward build. Having not built this one, it would be interesting to see how this thing stacks up against it, because you might remember I was very much a fan of that little kit. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. We had it built within a couple of hours and painted the next day. It was that good. Again, I'm never a mass fan of this deeply raised ram system on here between all the joins and the lines and everything else. We know the real thing has it, but I think they seem to be always exaggerated, especially in the smaller scales. Something we mentioned about when we actually did the Hasegawa kit, we've got it again here. Is it overdone? Gut reaction says it is, but at the end of the day, a little bit of work literally with a sanding stick or a sanding sponge over that, you could just take it down a notch so it's not so pronounced and things like that. Again, watching these things flying around here, which we do these days, they never seem to stand out like they used to. But again, this ram tape, even on the box art now, is very much in colour with the aircraft instead of being against it. So again, that's a very nice touch. It is nice to see it in sort of, you know, the actual British markings, I must admit, being, you know, a complete fanboy. But again, it's one of those ones where I think all the other nations, when they come online with this one, they're all going to look fantastic anyway. And then again, aftermarket wise, or they might even drop another kit of this one with different markings onto it, like other manufacturers have as well. So take your pick with this one. As always, it is available from the PM store for a measly £28, and I'll put a link in the description down below if you fancy going off having to go in at this kit. But I have to say, having built the other one, I'd really like to build this one to see exactly how it builds.